We hear it all the time. Write what you know. But you can't really only write what you know, or you'll end up with a book full of characters who are just you. We are not going to have a story if there's 5 Ruth characters and no men and no one of any other experience. So obviously, when we're telling stories, when we're novelists, we have to write things that we haven't experienced. We have to write about being both men and women, about being in different ages, different jobs. So how do we still write what we know? A trend that came about in somewhat recent years, I'm getting old, so recent means quite a long span now, but this own voices movement is one of those things that is a great idea in theory. In practice, it is failing in a lot of different ways. And one of those ways that I am noticing is that there's a lot of different experiences and identities within every single individual book. So which ones are the own voices? So the books in my sled hockey team of Cedar Harbor, for example, I have a book that is about a quadriplegic sports guy. I don't know sports very well. I am not quadriplegic. But his love interest, who is also a point of view character, works at a grocery store, which I have done, and has escaped from a cult, which I have done. I grew up in a cult, and I put my experiences and thoughts and emotions and feelings about that into this character. The book that comes after that, the heroine is autistic, which is own voices to me. I will be exploring my experience of being autistic as a child, a young woman. Probably in this book it won't get to the point of being an old woman or a middle-aged woman as I am now. But the other characters have experiences that are not own voices to me, because again, not all the characters are clones of myself. When people talk about writing what you know, to me, that has always meant writing emotional truth, not physical truth. I give my characters experiences and thoughts and feelings that are emotionally true to things that I have experienced. The physical circumstances may be different, but the emotions are the same. So, for example, in the first book of the sled hockey team of Cedar Harbor, the female character in that struggles to sleep. She has an insomnia that was triggered by a traumatic event in her life that she is not willing to really face and talk about. And I based that experience on the traumatic insomnia that I got after my college boyfriend. I had to take him to the hospital in the middle of the night, and we spent all night in the ER, and there was this sense of I went to sleep and my whole world shifted while I was out, while I was asleep, while I was gone, and I woke up to a very scary, different circumstance, and that has impacted me, not every night, but it has impacted my ability to sleep and to trust that I can sleep safely. And I gave that to my character Carly, who experienced her brother being in a car accident in the middle of the night and being awoken to this information that he was in the hospital. They didn't know if he was going to make it, didn't know what the future held. And ever since then, she has struggled with insomnia in exactly the same way that I do. So it is taking that experience and staying true to the emotion, but not always the physical details of how it happened. The first book that I wrote did have a main character who was self-insert. I think many of us authors at least start with a very directly self-insert character. But of course, every character that we write in every book has some aspect of our soul in it, has some aspect of ourselves in it. Now it's more just bits and pieces. It's not like you could look at the character and say that's Ruth's life, that's Ruth's experience. You can with my first book, and as I've said before, I actually really dislike the main character of that book. I really dislike the self-insert character at this point because I have grown as a person a lot over those years, and I can see all of her flaws way too clearly, and so that's a whole other issue. But these days, when I'm writing characters, regardless of men, women, old, young, I am drawing on my experiences in different aspects of being human. And of course, there's still an aspect of research as well for those physical circumstances where if you have not had these exact physical experiences, then you probably do need to take care and go out there and make sure that you are accurately telling this story in a way that isn't going to undermine and harm others. I can appreciate that and understand that. But that's why we really need a variety of books and a variety of storytellers. And I'm so glad that self-publishing has become as accessible as it has to so many people. You don't need a traditional publisher to give you the stamp of approval and say, yes, this story is worth being told. They have a long history of promoting some types of stories over others, of not telling a variety of voices and experiences. So we have the means to fix that by self-publishing, indie publishing. There are ways to get our stories out there, and the more variety of those stories we have, the less it will matter if somebody has published a racist book, for example. Then the harm that can do when there's only that book out there showing this character as that way is really mitigated when there's hundreds of other books with characters of the same race being totally different, so that you can see that wide variety of human experience, and not every character has to be perfect and has to avoid stereotypes at all cost, because we have enough of them to weave that pattern. That's how I feel about living in an area that's very diverse. I really appreciate that I live somewhere where there are people of all races, religions, nationalities all meshed together. I mean, they say America is the melting pot, and that is not always true in all areas, but the area that I am in is very, very much that way. And it really helps to unpack internalized racism and biases, unconscious biases, because you're encountering so many people of so many different walks of life that your brain can't be like, oh, people like this do this thing, because you can experience that that's not true. And that's what I would like to see in books as well. But the point is, if you are a writer and you are struggling with the concept of write what you know, try thinking about how you can write your emotional truth and what physical circumstances for your unique characters who are not you can experience that will bring out those emotions. And that is a way that you can be authentic and resonate with people who have had experiences like that.